So, hi everyone, my name is Gina Kessler. I am one of the librarians here. And so you just got a wonderful introduction to generative AI and lots of different applications that it can be used for. I'm going to do a deep dive into just one of these applications, and that is finding scientific literature. So you might be a professor and you need to find, keep up with the peer-reviewed scholarly literature in your field. You might be a staff member who needs to keep up with evidence-based practices in student affairs or counseling or disability support, things like that. You might also just want to access the scholarly literature to make sure, maybe there's a medical problem in your family and you want to keep up with the medical literature on, possible treatments. Or the example I'm going to be using here is you've got this huge California ballot to fill out and you want to find out what is the science on all of these things that I need to weigh in on. But when you try to do those kinds of searches, you run into all these barriers. First of all, it's time consuming, right? To figure out what resources should I use, what databases should I use. I gotta search in all these different places. When I find one source that's good, if I want to track down the references that it cites, I need to copy and paste them back into the search engine and try to find each one individually often. The other problem that especially students run into, but we can all run into when we're new to a field, is that computers don't use human language. So you're used to typing in a question in natural language into Google, but that often doesn't work when you're searching for scholarly literature. And the other difficult part is that academics also don't really use human language. And so when you are trying to actually read the papers that you found, it can be really difficult if you don't have training in the vocabulary and the research methods and all of that. So, I am curious what you all use to find academic papers. You can do all this if you want, but in the interest of time also, can a few people just shout out and I will repeat on the microphone, what are some of your go-to sources for finding academic papers when you need to, if you need to? PubMed, thank you. Google Scholar.
Research Rabbit.
Research Rabbit, and we'll be talking about that here. Awesome. Okay. So there are a lot of different tools available, Google products, library databases, and now AI-powered literature discovery. So there are a couple different kinds of ways that AI can be used. Part of it, sort of one function is just like citation networking, and then the other way that AI can be involved in this is more of like a semantic analysis. So there are some tools that can just help you map the citation connections between papers, and I'll show you an example of that. The other way that AI can be used is to help you find relevant and similar papers. If you have like a seed paper that's really good, you can find other stuff like that. And then also, with the last thing I mentioned on the last slide, with just the reading of the papers can be difficult, you can use these AI tools that are specially designed for this. So ChatGPT was not originally designed to find scholarly papers and read them and analyze them for you. These tools are. So I'm just going to go over 3, but there's like dozens. So this is just meant to give you a very, very brief introduction to some of the power of these tools. And at the end, I'll give you some ways to follow up if you want more information on these or you want to continue these discussions. So Research Rabbit, as James mentioned, this is a very popular tool because it is free. And what Research Rabbit really excels at is if you have some seed papers, some really good papers you like, then you can really visualize the entire citation network of those papers. So not just who they're citing and who's citing them, but all the similar papers that paper and other papers all tend to be citing too. So it's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever, basically, but for papers. And the other nice thing about this is it syncs with Zotero. So I'll show you a little demo. But basically, you can start with a couple seed papers, and then it finds you all these other papers that are connected to it, and then it gives you a map that visualizes the sort of tight connections between papers. And so I'll show you a very in action. I will admit that it is very overwhelming the first time you look at it, and then you sort of get the picture after that. So I'm going to go ahead and add some papers on rent control because Prop 33 is asking us whether we want to repeal Costa-Hawkins and enable municipalities to design their own rent control policies. So if I am looking for papers on rent control, you can also put in a specific paper you know of. Let's hope this works. There we go. It's finding, yeah, this one looks good. I'm going to add this one to my collection. I'm going to add, where's the diamond paper? This one to my collection. And then you can start with as many as you want or as few. And then I got back here and I've got this collection of a couple articles. So all I had to do was find 2. And now it's connecting me to 893 other similar papers. And I can scroll down here and see, let me see if this can go up here so I don't need to stand on this precarious platform on the edge. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, this will help me keep my face in the mic too. You can see all these different related papers on rent control, and then as I go over here, the green ones are the ones I've already found, and it's connected to all these other ones too. So if you are trying to find absolutely, thank you, every paper in your field, this could be really useful for that when you're trying to do a really comprehensive search. The other thing that's really useful is taking a look at, it helps you point to the other papers that these authors have written, and also it suggests 403 other authors I might want to look at. And so if you are, advising students who might want to go to grad school and they really need to know like who are the main authors doing research in my field, or if you are just looking to discover stuff that might use different keywords, but these people are doing related work, these can be really useful. So it is, like Research Rabbit, it is a real rabbit hole that you can go down, but it's really cool. And I think the cool thing for students too is it shows them that research is a conversation. It's not just a list of search results, that these are people doing work and they are building off each other and connecting to each other. So that's Research Rabbit. Oops, we're not doing that. Okay. Next, Elicit. So Research Rabbit was free. Elicit lets you do a little bit of research for free, but then you got to pay $10 a month if you want the souped up features. And what Elicit does that's so cool is it can translate like natural language questions into scholarly papers that are going to be relevant for you, and then you can basically have it compare different aspects of those papers against each other. And it comes up with a little summary of the top 4 papers that it finds. So let me go ahead and show you Elicit. I'm going to go ahead and put my research question into Elicit, and you'll see it finding papers, the redistributional impact of modern rent control, the economics of rent control, and then it is actually summarizing them based on the abstract. And then it takes the top 4 that it found and it creates like a mini literature review right at the top, summarizing them. Then I can also say, let's compare the methodology that each of these papers use. And it will actually read the abstract, or in some cases the full text if it has access to it. And this was a lot faster when I did it at home. Anyways, it will go ahead and pull out the methodology for each one. Please, it's really cool. I want to demonstrate it. Oh, or the limitations of each study, or things like that. So it will just sort of allow you to compare different papers really quickly. There we go. So in some cases, they're just relying on the abstract, and the methodology may not be mentioned. But in some cases, they may say, this was an empirical investigation using data from the American Housing Survey from 1984 to 1996. And so this can be really useful when you just need to get a quick glance at a bunch of papers at once. And then you can decide which ones you want to read in more depth. The other thing that, oh, and what I should have mentioned with Research Rabbit is if there is like an open access PDF available, it'll pull that in too. This one, you can use the DOI to go out and find the article. And then the next thing that's super cool is Scite does a lot of the same things, but it also includes some other features that are really interesting. The problem with Scite is that it is $20 a month and there is no free option for this one. So I had when one a faculty member read the description for the session and was like, Scite, wait, do we have that through our library? I have to pay 20 bucks a month. And I was like, no. But it is really cool. I'm currently on the free trial just to be able to do this presentation. And not only does it pull up sources for you, it actually shows you how many other sources have cited those sources and how they cited it. Are they supporting that source? Or are they contradicting its findings? Or are they just mentioning it as another study that's been done in this field? So this one takes a while to run, so I already did it beforehand. So once again, I put in a very sort of natural language search, and this came up with a much fuller literature review. The other things that it does is it can like suggest a search strategy for you. It tells you the searches that it used, and then it tells you the publications it consulted in order to come up with this literature review. And then, here's a really cool part. 5 minutes, cool. So then the cool part is here, let's see, this article that it found has been cited by 180 publications. So that's information that you can usually get from Google Scholar or from some library databases like Web of Science, how many times it's been cited. But what's the nature of those citations? Are they supporting its findings or not? So you can see that it has, let's see, so that this one, it pulls out, it says, our findings highlight the potential for land use regulations to have time-varying effects on real estate prices, as shown in recent papers by, and it pulls out this one. So you can see this one is, it's pretty confident that this other paper is supporting its findings. However, down here, you'll see that it's found some papers that seem to have contrasting findings. So in this case, let's see, in contrast to our findings, previous empirical studies focusing on spillover effects find a decrease in free market prices in response to rent control. So it can be a way to really not just to see that something has been cited a bunch, but if the evidence supports this paper. So that is something that I think is really cool. And then you can also see this paper cites 25 more papers, and then for each of them, you can see how many times they've been cited and in what ways. Wow. So that was super fast. And there's more. The ones that are super cool, and I encourage you to take a look at after this, are SciSpace and ScholarC, especially. ScholarC can basically turn a just mind-numbing scientific article into a series of basically flashcards summarizing the key points of the methodology, the results, the lit review, everything. And SciSpace basically does the whole research process for you. So your students may be using this, and it's good to know about. And so I just want to say that you don't have to use these things. We have scholarly databases through the library that found really good stuff that some of these AI tools did not find because it's not open access. Then also, like, Google Scholar is free and it's out there and it finds a lot of stuff too. And so returning to that question of how to use this with students or whether to use it with students. I just wanted to pose a couple of questions about what skills you think your students might need before they use these tools. Is this giving them a calculator before you've taught them to add and subtract and divide themselves? And so it's going to do the work for them? Or do they have the skills to understand how these research networks work and how scholarly papers work and how to find their own stuff? And even for us practice scholars, it can be like part of the important part of the process is deciphering these articles and mapping the connections ourselves. So you don't want students to totally bypass that, but maybe it can help them. But again, you don't have to use these things. There are all kinds of ethical considerations to take into account. Bias factors into which papers get cited more, right? In terms of research networks, the white men tend to get cited more than women and people of color. And so that's going to factor into the papers that get recommended here. Also, intellectual property. When you're publishing, did you give them permission or give permission to the publishers to contract with these AI services and have them ingest your papers and then summarize them? Probably not. And then also, a lot of these are based on abstracts, and so they might not be totally accurate or comprehensive. And anytime you use AI, the creation of these tools and the use does have environmental impacts. So feel free to not use any of these if that's for you. So we do have a library guide to AI use in academic research. I did send it out via emails with the faculty and staff listservs this week if you want to look back at that email. And then if you are interested in discussing this more, please scan this QR code and let me know, would you like a one-on-one appointment? Should we have a workshop on this? It's like a full hour. Are you interested in this? Let us know. And just a heads up, I used an AI tool to generate this presentation, but I rewrote all the text. I did get inspired by outline by Claude, but I had to change the whole thing. And yeah, so thanks to Gamma for letting me do this out. No time for Q&A, but come find me.
We do have time for questions.
Great. Go around. And do the previous AI presenter, are there time for questions?
Any AI questions? Yes.
Oh, sure. I'm Julie Scaff. I'm in the Student Life Division. I'm not sure if either of you or any of you has an answer, but what is our AI policy at St. Mary's? Maybe that's a loaded question, but what are we doing right as of today? And is there a plan in the future to have a definitive policy?
There is no policy for faculty and staff use of AI, right? The students have just the honor code, which says don't plagiarize. So whether you're plagiarizing from AI or something that a human wrote, they're expected to cite it, but every professor can kind of come up with their own, I think, policy of AI use in their class. Anyone else have? Oh yeah, there's a working group working on a policy for students. And James oversees that. Great. Yeah.
Oh, other questions?
Okay. Yeah.
I can go.
Or here, I think sweat is coming in.
I don't know if you have the answer, but maybe you or anybody in this room might have the answer. So when we type in, sometimes we use a generative AI system to say, can you shorten this? Or can you give me a better expression? Or, some kind of version of that basically we give the AI our thinking and then our thoughts, right? Where is it going? Are we kind of giving our intellectual kind of ideas to AI that somebody else might be using it? What should we know about this? And sort of how do we prepare ourselves in a way that we are smart enough that we're not going to be dictated by AI in some way or another?
Do you want to take that?
Anybody know?
I believe it depends on the, yeah. Okay. Great question.
Yeah, and a hefty question. Thank you, Tito. But it really depends with the different generative AI or the chatbots that you're using. Some of it may retain and some of it may not. So that's why I just kind of being familiar with which one that you're using, because sometimes with AI, it's not the information you're not giving it, it's not retaining it and keeping it to generate more. So it just really honestly depends.
Yeah, take a look at that terms of service, because ChatGPT does reserve the right to use whatever you give it to continue training the AI. Other apps may not do that. Colin? Well, you do for the video and the transcript. Thank you.
My question, I guess, is for any of the presenters. What should we tell students who have shared that there is trepidation on the part of their faculty automatically that they're using AI to generate responses or journal entries to verify that they are not? Like I had one student who shared that they used to do journal entries, and now because of the AI doubts that their professor has, now they're having like weekly or daily reading quizzes as an alternative for the journal responses, because the presumption is all of the journal entries are presented with AI as the primary source. So I don't know what to tell a student to verify that these are their own intellectually unique ideas. So I'm wondering if anybody that they would share with that.
I mean, yeah, I think this is all new, and so everyone's kind of trying to figure it out. And I think that that faculty wanting to make sure that we're teaching students to do their own work is completely like valid pedagogical approach. But hopefully we get to a point where we can trust students, we all have an understanding, and they know when they can use it and when they shouldn't, and they have an investment in their education in order to want to do their own thinking and their own work. But yeah, it's I totally, yeah, and I would think that they would be doing all this work to give reading quizzes if there wasn't some indication that some students hadn't already used AI to do the work for them. So yeah, it's really tricky, and I think it can be like some faculty are definitely having like real in-depth conversations with their classes about developing a policy for AI together and what the students want their learning goals to be and how it can be fair for each other, right? It's not, no student wants other students to be able to use this stuff in the class when they're not able to, or so I think just coming up with equitable approaches is going to take time and a lot of conversations between faculty and faculty and their students to figure out how we use these things as appropriate learning tools and not as a substitute for our own work.
Yeah, I was just going to echo what you said, Gina, as well, is that I think really having those conversations in the classroom is really, really key in including those students, because in one of the webinars that we just attended, that's students' biggest fear right now is being accused of using AI. And so really having those conversations, and I think it's probably gonna maybe eventually go towards like with every assignment a note being like, you can use AI to help support this, or this is not. So yeah, echoing just, there's gonna have to be conversations about them.
I have one thing to add too about that is that something I've noticed in a lot of the output of generative AI is that it's incredibly general and doesn't include any specificity whatsoever, which for me is very frustrating. But so if a student includes actual detail and their own specific thoughts, then that can help to indicate that it is their work. That's perhaps one technique they can use.
How much more time do we have for questions? Keep going.
I'll just make a comment. Yeah, it's kind of a question, kind of a comment, and everything in between. As a faculty member, I mean, I'm looking around the room and I can count on one hand how many of my faculty colleagues are here. I can tell you that faculty have no idea what to do with AI. It completely pulls the rug out from under our feet in terms of making sure or assessing whether students are meeting the learning objectives of a specific assignment and the learning outcomes of a particular course or program. So, yeah, faculty really need to have conversations like this with students. Before that can happen, though, I think faculty need to understand what is out there. I mean, I did not even realize that the AI could synthesize 3 papers into a summary and list the sources and how the methodologies differ or are similar. That is literally one of the assignments in one of the classes in our department that could be done in 5 seconds. Okay, so much for that assignment, right? So I think we're at the beginning of a very long haul of rethinking about assessments and how to assess whether students are meeting the course learning outcomes. I guess that's all I can say. Of course, I think faculty can use the help of all of you who have more knowledge and skills in these up-to-date tools. So, help.
The hard part is, like, the research guide that we've created, it needs an update every week because it's changing so quickly.
Yeah.
And that I think is really hard. And I was reading a book called The Joy of Searching, and it's a Google researcher, but it's already outdated because it's a book. It took forever to publish, and then the stuff that's in it is already too late. So that is really difficult. So I think keep having these conversations. And I really appreciate what Shannon said, which is that staff and faculty, you need to have the AI literacy. All of us need to be literate. So you want anything really quick for our next one?
So thank you. I believe it's just a matter of time. Like a long time ago when calculators came out first time, math teachers were discussing, do we allow our students to use the calculator to do the math homework or not? That kind of conversation right now. And meaning, it's a matter of time, it's gonna come. All our students are gonna use AI because it's a tool, right? But the next step we need to be prepared for is, as we saw, there are many different layers of AI, right? So there are a free version and paid version and high version, so free version. The quality of outcome, different levels of AI can provide is beyond our comprehension. So then when it happens, how are we preparing for the digital inequity among our students group? Are we preparing for that?
Yeah, the students, they can pay for the pro version of ChatGPT versus the free version or whatever. Yeah, and I actually added a slide about that, kind of cut for time, but yeah.
And we have more AI conversations happening tomorrow. So back to that. Thanks.
Thank you to Gina.